Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. And appreciate you stopping by. So, Pacman, the legend, Manny Pacquiao returned to the ring tonight for the first time since 2021 when he lost to Yordenis Ugas, the Cuban welterweight, who actually ended up getting key to the city. I was at that ceremony. Mayor Suarez gave Yordenis Ugas a key to the city for beating Manny Pacquiao. And that was when Manny was 42 years old, and he really did not look good in that matchup. I was at the fight previous to that in 2019. Leroy and I did we did him versus Thurman. We did that Radio Row, and was a bucket list item for me. Manny Pacquiao is one of my favorite fighters of all time. I think on my list, it's him and Roy Jones as my all two favorites. But I would say even like Manny is like, oh, boxing after dark. Like I was watching this guy from his rise up, all of them. Anytime you ask anybody like, oh, where's Tobin on a Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view night, I'm either buying it or I am getting to the bar and we're watching it somewhere. I was a fiend in college for Manny Pacquiao. I had all the Nike shirts. I wish I kept some of those around. I see how much I should have bought two at the time because I see how much those things sell for on eBay. I just can't bring myself to do it. But he tonight he fought Mario Barrios at the MGM Garden Arena. They made a big point of that in the broadcast. He has the most fights in Garden Arena history. Not at the T-Mobile tonight. And I did bet on Pacquiao tonight. I had him in a 4-fighter parlay. I had him with Sebastian Fundora, with Brendan Allen in UFC, and Dustin Poirier. So we hit half, we pushed, and we lost the Dustin Poirier fight, which would have gotten me most of my money back and a little sweetener, more. But ended up empty-handed. That's the game. That's why I make fat odds for very little bets, so it doesn't hurt so much. But that is my approach to gambling. It's not everybody's. This fight against Mario Barrios was a bit of a roller coaster ride because, it looked for a minute there like this could have been an Ugas situation and Manny was going to look a little sad. Trying to get on my scorecard here. It was not a hard fight to score. I'll tell you that one right now, because first round, obviously a Manny Pacquiao round, Barrios didn't even throw punches. Second round was a little closer, but I still thought Pacquiao had the action. And my thinking going into this is why I bet on Pacquiao. I've been to a couple Barrios fights in Vegas. I've seen him fight on a couple of cards, a Canelo card, Benavidez card. I've interviewed Barrios at least twice, I think maybe 3 times. Really good dude, San Antonio, super solid. A bigger welterweight, but has had some tough goes when he stepped up in competition. Gervonta Davis fight comes to mind. So I kind of understood why he was the opponent, because he's just big. Like, that's the awkward thing, is like Manny Pacquiao's going up against a bigger opponent. And I was just sitting here being like, well, he's done that his entire career. Like, literally, put anybody in their right mind against Manny Pacquiao, he's been the smaller guy, basically, since he's gone to 135 and up. Like, that's his whole career. If he could beat Antonio Margarito, I think he can handle Mario Barrios if he doesn't look like a stone. And I honestly was most worried about the cramps more so than anything in this fight. But they had talked that they had accounted for that. They had changed up their routine with that, so that was good. They did account for that. But it did look like after that second round, like Barrios was really peppering him with the jab, and Manny just like, he just couldn't, like, he didn't seem like he didn't seem like he could figure it out. And you get through round 5 and he takes the lead, and you're just like, oh no, like this is going to be ugly. But he responds in round 6 with a big way, and he just starts getting that lead right, which is always so sneaky. And the thing is, dude, anytime he would get and be able to unleash a combination, the crowd was just going nuts. And I kind of feel like Barrios, I do feel like there was an element of him that got a little shell-shocked. I think a little element of it was like, he was like, whoa. I don't think he had been in a fight like that before, dude. Not even with Gervonta Davis. Because remember, Gervonta came and took that thing late. But, Gervonta's a big star, but I don't hear his crowds get like that. Like, they don't chant for him like he's Rocky. Like, that's, when you go and fight Manny Pacquiao, and I experienced this in the Thurman fight. Dude, there's not many buildings I've heard as loud as when Manny Pacquiao put Keith Thurman on his ass in the first. Oh my God, it's an experience. And it's another element opponents have to face. And then all of a sudden, Manny just starts cooking. He's just like, and Freddie said it. Like, he has this good 6th round, and Freddie was just like, you get him with a 5-punch combination, I think you can get him out of here. Now, I don't know if he was ever at that point. I can't say that Barrios was ever really in danger, but I think Freddie was right. Like, I just think that if Manny showed the threat, I just think it froze Barrios for all these rounds. And so he had a run of like 4 straight. And at my point, he's up on the scorecards, 87-84, which meant all he needed was one more round in my mind. And I was pretty in line with the TV broadcast. I think that we had a little bit of a swing on 8. I think 8 was a little closer, or 9 was a little closer, excuse me. But all he needed was one more round. And mind you, I bet on him, but I was like, Barrios comes out in the 10th. His trainer's like, hey man, you can't respect this guy. And it's tough because Manny pulls these tricks like where he's like trying to, delay coming out of the ring because his tape's messed up. Or he's like messing with the guy saying, hey, you're hitting me low. And even the ref had to be like, Manny, I'll determine if he's hitting low. But he's so charming. You just look at him and you're like, I can't get mad at him. But Barrios comes down that 10th, has some really good body work. And you're like, all right, I think he took that one. So then it's 96-94. Get to the next round, Barrios, he has some that was the closest that you could have probably leaned Pacquiao in my mind. But Barrios had some flurries. It just looked like he was getting better of it. And it kind of looked like Manny was starting to wear down a little bit. It just looked like he didn't have, because I think it's just at 46. I just don't think he has those combinations in him the same way. Super entertaining. Had the time of my life watching him because he didn't embarrass himself. And I know a lot of people, I think the vast majority of people think that he won. I think the reaction to everybody was like, Barrios, you couldn't mess with a 46-year-old? Like, Manny. They always say, like, oh, you got to beat the champ. It's a stupid thing. I hate that, but people believe in that. Oh, you got to take the belt. I think a lot of people thought of like, you got to annihilate a 46-year-old or the 46-year-old should win. I think a lot of people walked out of this fight feeling that way. And I can't really blame him. Barrios, he ends up, in my mind, winning the last 3 rounds. I had it 114 apiece, which is what it ended up being, a majority draw. But, man, I was so proud of Manny because I really thought it was going to turn the tide and go ugly. And he really, really fought a pretty decent fight for a 46 years old. I have no interest in seeing a rematch. They said, oh, would you do a rematch? No, thank you. No rematch. I don't really know who I don't know what you do. Like, could he fight Ugas again? Like, Ugas has lost to Barrios. He's lost to Spence. Could he avenge that loss? Like, is that a thing that he would be into? Because even Ugas is getting a little up there. He's like 40. Maybe that's something to think of. Maybe that's something that he wants to avenge. I don't know. There was some thought if he won this fight that he was going to fight Tank, which kind of dangerous. I don't want to see Manny Pacquiao get sent to another stratosphere. But Gervonta's got a little bit of that too, where he's inactive. He kind of stares at his opponents. And so if he can't get the kill shot, which he obviously is much more dangerous than Barrios is, we've seen him have some tough a couple of tough opponents. First of all, he's got to take care of Roach, whenever the hell that's going to happen. And we saw that with Isak Cruz. Like, it was like, that wasn't. He's had some performances where he's just kind of let things flow through, ease on by, and you're just like, all right, that's okay. Only a couple. Like, most of the time he's destroying dudes. Most of the time he's putting the lights out. But there's been a couple of times where you've been like, that's what you came with? That's what we got today, Tank? I think that's too dangerous a fight for Manny Pacquiao, truthfully. But I just thought Al Heyman, PBC with whatever their situation is going to be with pay-per-views that are left, because they don't have Canelo right now. They don't really have anybody other than Tank and Manny now. So that one seemed to make the most sense, and maybe Tank wins this fight against Roach. I know he was going to fight Jake Paul. Jake Paul kind of feels like he's doing this heavyweight thing. He's facing off with Usyk today, which, by the way, shout out to Usyk. He annihilated Daniel Dubois again. But this dude he's left no doubt. I don't. People talking Joe Parker. They're talking. No, fine. Joe Parker's probably earned it. He's earned his way back, but none of us think he's going to beat Joe Parker, do we? No, we don't. So Tyson Fury's trying to get the shot again. Meh. Fine. But if Usyk wants to fight Jake Paul, like, go. If anybody's earned the right to just fight Jake Paul and annihilate Jake Paul, I think, did Jake Paul say he wants to fight him in MMA too? Not. It's so weird. Anyway. Shout out to Usyk, man. That was a great performance. And then shout out to Sebastian Fundora. He won the second leg of my parlay today. Was talking with Xander Zayas today. This is my guy. He was supposed to fight Xander. Instead, they ended up going to take on Tim Tszyu, which was a little weird. And they claimed a rematch clause, even though they had both fought a couple of times since. So I don't know if this was a PBC political thing that we're still dealing with. But Xander's fighting next week for the belt for the vacant WBO that Sebastian vacated. But I will say, Fundora looked great today. He put Tim Tszyu down in the first round, and Tszyu had it was strange because Tszyu had a really good, I think it was fifth or sixth round where he cracks him with a big right. He looks like he's still in the fight, and then they go to the corner and he basically no-mosses it. He doesn't want to fight anymore. So I don't know. Do with that what you will, but Sebastian Fundora looked really, really good. I know he's going to Harvard, so I don't know what that does for your boxing career. I'm sure there's boxing gyms in Massachusetts. He'd be all right, but I would like to see him fight Xander. I think that'd be a fun fight. 154. Xander gets that belt. They have a unifier. I think that's fun. There's a lot of fun fights at 154. 154 is a good division. A lot of talented offensive fighters. But and I get it. Fedora's, he's been on the same. He's 4 years older than Xander is. So, but I'm curious to see, Xander, I've been watching him since he was 16 down here. So I'm very curious to see like what the young fella wins next week, and then like what that means when he's on the door with all these guys and how he shows out. I think he's gonna be something special. But disappointing that Manny didn't get the nod, but I can't sit here and say I was surprised because that's the score I had. And I'm happy that I got out of it okay. I would like it to be the end. I think that he showed himself well. I don't need to see him box again. We didn't see the Manny Pacquiao tonight. I guess that's the one last thing. Is like he's not Pacman anymore, but he showed himself to be very respectable. He probably should, in a lot of people's eyes, won the belt tonight. But I don't need to see it anymore. I would like him to ride off into the sunset. I hope, financially he's in a good place where he can do that. But that man's a maniac. He's lived his life in a very different means. So I don't necessarily know that it is. But it's still a joy watching him do his craft.